Hello, and welcome once again to Comics Show and Tell with Matt Gertler. That's me, the one and only Matt Gertler. Well, unless you count the other guy with the same name on the East Coast. But if you're hanging around comics, then I'm your Nat Gertler. I'm a comic book writer, a comic book publisher, and a professional Peanuts nerd. That's right, I've written 6 books on the topic of Charles Schulz and his famous comic strip. I've written Peanuts comic book stories, did about 60 episodes of a Peanuts podcast, and have been blogging about Peanuts books for over 2 decades now. I don't know how many Peanuts books I have in my collection, but the number passed the 1,000 mark years ago, so perhaps it's not surprising that this episode will be about my favorite strange Peanuts books. Before I get into it, though, let me say hello. I know I haven't appeared physically in the previous episodes of this, but I got some viewer questions to deal with, particularly about some of the, shall we say, sound effects that appeared in the background of previous episodes. So I'd like to introduce you to the co-host of this show, Fletcher. Fletcher is a Flame Point Siamese. He's named after fictional fiction writer J.B. Fletcher, and he is not, as some have surmised, in heat. Nor is he in pain, nor being starved. Sometimes he just likes being heard, particularly after he's just eaten. And those were the howls that you heard. Will he be putting his 2 cents in later? I don't know. We'll see. Now, Peanuts books come in many forms, and I don't just mean strip reprint book versus storybook. For example, I've got this lovely Flying Ace statue. That's really a Peanuts book. Or, this comfy pillow here, comfy pillow, is also a Peanuts book. I do have this Peanuts book, which is actually a bank. It's got Snoopy on it. Hey! Peanuts licensing continues to be a big business, with new books licensed all the time. And occasionally, there are books that aren't licensed, like this recent AI-generated book, or these Arabic coloring books. And as long as you're not paying for the rights to Peanuts, you may as well not pay for the rights to Sesame Street characters, too. Which gets me to my favorite strange Peanuts book series, the Fizacki Spotkanis. I'm probably not pronouncing that at all right, because I don't speak Polish. And these are in Polish, from Poland. Now, these are not licensed Peanuts books, but I hesitate to call them bootleg because I don't know the Polish law at the time, which is 1984, while Poland was under communist rule. The communist world was not famous for being concerned about international copyright, so they may have been produced totally legally, even without license. Still, lacking a license caused them problems, because when you have a license to something like Peanuts, you get access to reproducible materials. These days, it would be digital files. The Peanuts folk have a whole licensing database with all of the strips and lots of other graphics available for their licensees. Back in the 90s, it wouldn't be digital files, but nice clean photostat copies of the strip. So instead, what did they do? They redrew the strip, traced it, I'm pretty sure. These books are made primarily of awkwardly traced strips in Polish. And you may be thinking, well, they had copies of the strips to work from. Wouldn't it look better if they photographically copied it from a book rather than tracing? Well, yes, but it looks to me like they only had one Peanuts book to work from, and it was this one, Peanuts Jubilee, a big, beautiful book that came out for the 25th anniversary of Peanuts. And if you only are going to have one Peanuts volume, and it's a lovely choice, and the largest size edition is... there were several sizes, is quite big. But it's just about all full of color Sunday strips, and that could cause problems with the copying. So tracing and redrawing it was. The text is translated by Anna Koisko, an award-winning translator who also tackled the writings of Philip Roth, Salman Rushdie, Woody Allen, Henry Miller, Jack Kerouac, Virginia Woolf, and Vladimir Nabokov, to pick out some heavy hitters. Now, as you see, the comics, even though they were Sunday ones, were reprinted in black and white originally. But it turns out that even communist-era Poland had crayons, and some of the copies I've gotten hold of were treated like coloring books. Sometimes respectfully, sometimes not. And I know some collectors out there are flinching. These copies aren't in mint condition. But I'm fine with that. I'm more than fine. I love knowing that an individual copy of an old book had a history, a life, that people interacted with it. I don't mind a shiny copy of something old, but I do like finding the handwritten note that someone scrawled in a copy of a book they were giving as a gift, or an old library stamp, or other marks that this book was something before it was retired into my hands. While these 48-page books are mostly strip reprints, in the back they have something different. Book 2 offers even daily peanut strips with their dialogue, well, I won't say removed, but not copied, traced, translated over. A blob of text lets you know it's a contest. Fill in the dialogue, mail it to the publishing house, and the most interesting development beautifully rewarded. How? It's a surprise. Thanks, Google Translate. There is a catch, however. The address to mail the entries doesn't appear until page 140 of Book 3, so you had to buy the next volume to enter. And someone out there just thinks they caught me in an error. I'd said these were 48-page books, and then I said something was on page 140. 140 is more than 48. But what they don't know is that the latter volumes don't start on page 1. The first volume has pages 1 through 48. The second one starts with page 49 and ends on 96. And with the third volume running 97 through 144. Now, this panel may look odd just beyond the coloring. The way it links Snoopy and Peppermint Patty and the way it has Woodstock sitting on a word balloon doesn't look like a Schultz layout. And it's not. It's from an original story in the back of the first volume, where Charlie Brown and friends talk with the guy who did the redrawing, complaining about how they were drawn, but the artist, Mirek, says he just wanted to present them in the most beautiful way to Polish children. And hey, they're up for meeting Polish children. And it wasn't the last time this effort would generate, and the same creative team would generate new Peanut stories. Well, you can just look a few years later in this Tarzan comic. Now, this comic is a great old golden age, a little of everything feel. You get Tarzan, you get Laurel and Hardy, you get Pixie and Dixie. Now, is that the Pixie and Dixie of the famous cat and mouse cartoons? No, it's the famous cartoon cat and mouse team of Tom and Jerry. And you get an original Peanut story. Then you turn the page and see a story of Mafalda, the beloved Argentinian comic strip kid. And then you realize that it's not a different story, it's the same story. A Peanuts and Mafalda crossover, only the characters never actually meet each other because they're on different continents. But Mafalda is a pen pal of one member of the Peanuts gang. Yeah, Woodstock, go figure. And the way they colored Snoopy seems a mite shady. These days, communism is gone from Poland, and they can buy real official Peanuts books now. They even have their own edition of the complete Peanuts. But it's not complete for them. It doesn't have the Mafalda story. Now, that's it for another episode. While I was planning for this to be a monthly series, I'm rushing another one out within a week because I want to beat the upcoming election. I'm not sure when you're watching this, but when I'm recording it, we're about a week and a half from possibly electing a woman as U.S. president for the first time ever in the real world. But comics beat them to the punch, and no, I'm not talking about the 2015 version of DC's Perez. I'm talking about a character that's older than Superman. If you want to be sure not to miss next episode, hit that subscribe button, and hey, hit the like button while you're at it. Leave a comment about what you'd like to see me cover, and until next time, go read some comics.